Avatar may gain an actual fan base now, probably. It is about time to make my own Navi avatar. I chose an older picture of myself where I had just put down my hair after having it in box braids for a day. Since my hair is straight, I felt like this version of myself could pull off the Navi look. It didn't matter at the end, it just gave my Navi straight hair anyway in the final piece. Though I had the vague idea of how I'd mold my face into the Navi shape, I quickly ran into the issue of how do I make my button nose Navi pilled. See, Navi have their noses pointed down, while my nose points to the sky. I low-key feel curious how my features would translate into an avatar by like the actual designers of the models. You know, the ones that worked on the film? They do such a great job of preserving the facial features of the actor, just enough it's familiar but not so distant that it becomes uncanny. All designers of this movie have earned their check in my books. I made the mistake of applying color before doing the shading and determining my values, so this one looked flat, but it was the first thing I did right after my winter break from content creation and art, so I will forgive myself this time. I will definitely try again, but this can serve as a reference for my next attempt. Also, I was trying on some jewelry on her, but I think some AI short was yapping about how Navi reject metal extracted from the earth as part of their belief system, so I deleted it, despite it being really cute. It gave me the idea to make this character an avatar instead of a native Navi, and she'd wear metallic jewelry in her ignorance before her inevitable character development. Yes, I have lore for this thing. Thankfully, I don't have to do any research into the Navi language to name this character. As she's an avatar, she will use her Earth name, Enessa Bereskin. Now for her story, I don't know much about the situation on Earth, other than what is shown in the movies, but I'm going to assume Russia is still a global superpower and is racing the American RDA with their own RRDA. Yes, Russian RDA. I know, I'm insanely original and creative. And RRDA either developed or stole the avatar tech to spy and compete over the same resources on Pandora. Cue Anissa B, a researcher by her own right. She did not exactly volunteer to the Russian Avatar program, but when the options are to either die on Earth or die in space, she could not turn down the opportunity to see at least something that isn't a Soviet neighborhood block as the world was coming to an end. The RRDA sent her off with a small maintenance crew to deploy a spying settlement and research lab under the RDA's radar. What the RRDA didn't account for is how much the free will of this small crew could turn against the organization. Fallen in love with Pandora, the crew slowly but surely stopped sending reports to headquarters and decided to indulge in the world instead. RRDA realized that without martial pressure, they could not do much about this act of betrayal, and sent a squad to recover what they could from the program, including tech and samples, and arrest the rogue scientists. And that's precisely what they did, although they were short one person. Anessa. The scientists refused to cooperate and give away her whereabouts, seeing as the avatar was still contained in the tank. They assumed she was not far somewhere in the wilderness with a depleting oxygen mask. After confirmation from HQ that retrieving her was not a priority, they left the lab and shut down the electricity supplies and generators, leaving the avatar tank on reserves. Once they had left the lab, a distress signal was sent to the rock settlement on Pandora, managed by the American resistance. Anessa and her avatar were rescued and transported by the scientists, and she joins the force to drive the RDA off this beautiful planet. Yeah, not entirely original, I know, but I will be lying if I said I'll have a hard time forgetting I even tried this trend, all for the recent Avatar movie hype wave. If you clicked on this video because you went to the movies and this was suggested to you, I would like to know, please tell me in the comments below. And now for my thoughts on this franchise. When Avatar first came out, for the longest time, people dunked on it for being alien Pocahontas and sharing a name with the insanely successful kids show Avatar: The Last Airbender. So every time you wanted to speak about Pandora, you would need to clarify that you are talking about the blue people avatar, which is enough to get bullied over from first-hand experience. Haha, this nerd likes the weird alien movie. Everyone point and laugh. Haha. Tragic upbringing aside, I loved Avatar from the very first movie myself. It had great world building, and when I watched it, I was like 7, I think. I will not double check this. I don't know when it came out and I don't know how old I was, and I'm not doing math at 8 AM in the morning recording the script. It inspired me and cultivated awe and was probably a huge part of why I grew up emo, wishing I was reborn a cat or a dragon or something. By the way, for soon a video is scheduled to release next. You'll get to see me as a furry and also my husband, so you know what to do to stay up to date on it. Getting sidetracked here. Let me introduce you to my hell I will die on. Avatar is underrated. People say it is not an original concept, the story is overdone. Well, not to me, as someone who isn't an American or otherwise from a self-aware culture regarding the evil of colonization. Experiencing a colonizer-centered story is not something I often encountered, especially not when I was 7. I never watched Pocahontas, so I might be biased in this regard, but wasn't Pocahontas like super boring anyway? Calling this vast sci-fi world with aliens a worse Pocahontas is a stretch. I think it's better because I actually watched it. It's not boring, and the white boy savior actually has his ego dismantled and questioned, instead of getting accepted by the chief's daughter blindly because his daughter finds him hot. Jake recognizes in the movie he is not a savior, he could never be. He's a paraplegic with a selfish desire that drive him. Like any other human, he betrays his race because he sees the flaws in himself and decides he wants to change to become someone better than himself, which is an incomprehensible concept to some people. Most people who don't like this film and criticize it because they don't get the point that most human beings choose a side and ride with it until they die. Most humans will not realize they have flaws that they can change if they just wanted to change. This story is way more complex than fighting a hot cat girlfriend and betraying your ass for tail, which is why I think all the hate surrounding it is really about people not seeing the actual meaning of the story and how it ties to our human desire for good. Personally, I hate sci-fi, but Avatar has enough fantasy aspects like nature, the belief system, the animals, the race, for even me to find something compelling here. By all rights, this is a science fiction movie with aliens and war machines. I would have hated this movie if they focused on anything other than the Na'vi. But I can understand why it was hard to get a fan base for this franchise, especially when there was just the first movie and nothing else. The big flaw with the franchise was the lack of a sorting system. Humans love to categorize themselves into groups. Having a sense of belonging is important to us, social creatures that we are. If you compare Avatar to, let's say, Harry Potter is insanely popular, and even me, someone who never watched or read any of the books, had looked up what house I'd be sorted into for the pure need to satisfy my curiosity. I played the Harry Potter game once it was available for less than like $10 to acquire, and I was sorted into Ravenclaw. I personally thought I'd be a Hufflepuff, but I like the blue better anyway. Then there's My Little Pony, also a very popular franchise. When making a persona, you'd need to choose between earth ponies, unicorns, Pegasus, or alicorns, immediately sorting yourself into a category before ever even choosing your special talents. And finally, in Avatar: The Last Airbender, there was a picture going around which sorted which elements you could bend based on the shape of your hand. If you're curious, I'm a firebender. If it was up to me to decide my element, I'd be a waterbender. In the first movie, you had no way of sorting yourself with unique traits into any groups. Either you're a Na'vi, an Avatar, or a human. Boring set of choices. No one wants to be a human. They're the bad guys. And no one wants to impose themselves onto being a natural Na'vi, lest someone on the internet will make it their entire personality to call you a culture appropriator, appropriating a fake culture. There were not enough sorting options and the world felt small. There was no available space for self-inserts. But then the Way of Water came out and we were met with the new subrace, Water Na'vi, Metkaina. That is great and all, but still not quite enough options to justify a boom in personas, which some artists did try to make happen, to be fair. The new movie introduced 2 more sorting options for the fandom, which is why I feel like now there must be a crowd of artists out there getting ready to whip up their own characters. There's Wind Traders, Ash People, Water People, and Mountain People. You can now choose between your favorite aesthetics, and there's an evil Na'vi option now, which is very important for the edgy fans. Finally, we've achieved balance. Ewa would be proud. Someone needs to make a personality quiz for sorting ourselves into each clan. Also off topic, dear marketing department of this franchise, make plushies out of the wildlife and my life is yours. I need a new aquatic animal to add to my pile of draft protection plushies I stuff on the edge of the bed. A tulkun, maybe. Thanks. Anyway, like, subscribe, and buy my things. I do commissions, I do art, I do OCs, I do Instagram. Thank you. See you next time. Bye bye.